Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Power of Knowing Forums. Join the C-Suite Talks, a LinkedIn live event, episode 177 today. We are discussing on the topic of the power of precision, effective communication to declutter. To have this topic discussed, we have the honor of Shikha Pandey, mindfulness mindset coach, a podcast host for growth. Without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed speaker onto the podcast event. Hi, Shikha.
Hello,
Welcome.
Prem.
Hi.
How are you
How?
doing?
Wonderful, madam. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. And thank you so much for having me. And big congratulations on 177th episode. And I think your passion really shows through to carry something on for so many episodes and doing such a wonderful job. I am very, very humbled and very excited to be here with you.
Thank you, Shikha. Thank you for that. It's speakers like you make the podcast happening, and I'm thankful for you to join us today on the podcast. A brief about yourself, Shikha, on what you do,
Yeah.
and the journey will help the audience.
Sure. So I'm a mindfulness mindset coach, like Prem just mentioned. And what does a mindfulness mindset coach do is to enable you to create a mindset that is growth oriented. And I particularly focus on enabling people to find their sense of fulfillment, which we often believe sometimes that, when you go to the Himalayas and you meditate is where you find peace and calm. I truly believe that it exists here. And the entire practice of mindfulness is really about finding that fulfillment in this life, in this world, in this material world. So I try and enable people to create that. So that's where what I do. I have 19 plus years of experience that spans across corporates. I worked with companies like Airtel and HUL. I have been an entrepreneur for the last 14 plus years. And I'm a 500 plus hours certified mindfulness practitioner. And I combined everything together to give back to people, share their journeys, be part of their exciting journeys. And that's what led me to become a mindfulness mindset coach. I run a podcast called Holistic Growth with Shikha Pandey, wherein you find a lot of meditation practices, mindfulness practices for you. But most importantly, as someone who really truly believes in the potential of human beings, I think we are really boundless. And I really truly believe in that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's deep dive into the topic that we are talking about, the power of
Mhm.
precision, effective
Yes.
communication to declutter. When
Hmm.
you say precision in communication, and what do you mean, or how do you, why is it relevant in today's fast paced professional world?
Hmm. I was so excited, Prem, when you talked about this topic, and when we kind of were talking as to what can we do, and we came up with this. It's so relevant in today's times. Then let's understand what does precision really mean. When it comes to communication, it's about expressing your thoughts as clearly and as concisely and with purpose, and that's very important. And it becomes very, very relevant in today's times because everybody knows the world is full of distractions. Everything is trying to catch our attention. Everything is trying to ask for something from us. Everybody is distracted. And in this time, unless we are really clear in our mind as to what do we want to communicate, and we are able to express this effectively, and being able to choose the right kind of medium for it, because trust me, there's so many ways to communicate today, and yet communication has never been more jumbled up. So it's just like two different things that we're talking about. So many ways to communicate, and yet communication all over the place. And hence, in today's times, it becomes even more and more important, even for leaders, because the primary audience for your podcast is the C-suite leadership teams. Especially for them also, because it's not like you're just leading or driving one kind of people today. You're working across cultures, you're working across continents and countries, and it becomes even more important to have that precise communication that is so customized that you're able to drive them in the right direction towards your vision. And that's why it's so important in today's world.
You mentioned one point, Shika. Here you're
Mhm.
saying that today communication has become a big challenge.
Hmm.
I think I'll take one example there because earlier days we used to have a telephone where if nobody picks it up, that means nobody is at home,
Yeah.
right? So today, if you don't pick up, then something is seriously happening wrong. That's the communication that we have gone into the stage. If
Mm,
somebody is not picking, why the hell is not picking the call? So that's the frustration that comes up.
mm,
And when you are next sitting next to you, also the communication is not there. We
yeah.
are on our mobiles,
Mm,
and mobiles have become more important than the person sitting next to you.
yeah. True.
That's one thing. I was talking to my sister who stays in the US.
Mm,
She was saying her kids say, "What is for breakfast?" from the other room. So that's the kind of communication that we are having today.
yeah.
I think it is more of, rather than having a straight conversation, "Mom, what is it?" or "Dad, what is it?" or a colleague says, "Sir, I have a problem here. Can't we look at it?" It is more of messaging, trying to
Mm,
say, "This is what I sent. I sent you a message in the morning. You didn't
mm,
see. You could
mm.
have called also, right?"
Yeah. And people get offended about it if you don't see a
Offended.
message.
That's where I'm trying to say. Your point when you said that,
Mm,
that's what I was saying. So people have become so confined to saying that I sent a message and leave it there. They don't want to talk. I
mm.
think that communication, what you said, is still the challenge. That's
Yeah.
where I wanted to relate to what you were saying.
Yeah.
And in precise communication at the career level,
Hmm.
what could you help us to look at overcoming a complex challenge, maybe a pivotal moment where you see communication helped us solve a problem or a complex challenge?
Mhm. I'll go back to early on in my career itself, giving you a very example from my career itself. Oh, Anshuman is here. Thank you, Anshuman. It's very interesting to be here as well. So he's just dropped in a message. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so talking about pivotal moment from my career, and I started early on in a PR agency, and I was a trainee there in the PR agency. Okay, and we had a brand that was a women's brand. And the brief that was given to us in terms of the PR strategy was to make it look like, a very empowering brand, when women have their confidence and they're confident in themselves when they use that particular product, so on and so forth. So, a very empowering kind of image. The brief which was given to the marketing team, which was ads team, was all about, how this brand is going to make you find the love of your life or make you more attractive and, more fitting into the society kind of a thing. And both the briefs were so different. So when we came out and when we launched the PR and we launched the ad campaign, we saw that they were very different, and we had to actually pull it back and spend in a lot of money, of course, wasted, and man hours to redo the whole thing and align it. So, small things like these, which become big things because the communication isn't clear, it's not precise, and somewhere it gets lost in transit because nobody has taken time to kind of really put the thought together. So that's like one of the examples from my life that, I'm sharing here, which kind of really changed the entire plan altogether.
I think that's a important point. Now, where we see lack of clarity and
Hmm.
that caused a significant setbacks. I think that's what you're talking about. Now, we face that situation, but
Hmm.
most of the time, as you rightly said, uh, we encounter situations where there's lack of clarity
Hmm.
because of significant setbacks, but
Hmm.
we still don't find how to come out, or how did we put ourselves to navigating through it. So how do
Hmm.
you take that from your standpoint?
See, there are various tools and various techniques and various things available now that we're talking about the times now, which are available. But the most important thing is clarity in our own minds, first and foremost. So before we start communicating, it's important to know where are we coming from? What is my objective with this particular project? Let's talk about a
Hmm.
project. What's my objective? What is it that we want to really achieve? The next step is to understand who am I talking to? What are the different levels involved? Then what is their understanding? And then leading with empathy, but empathy with objectivity. That's extremely important. Empathy does means that you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and really able to, kind of feel their pain, but not so much that you're not able to take a decision objectively. Right. So that also becomes very, very important. So these are some of the things that are the first steps towards communicating. Then choosing what is, the medium of communication that you're choosing. Apart from that, how are you looking to choose and what kind of communication are you going to use through that medium? For example, if it's an entire project, you will be using entire stack to kind of lay out the entire project. Then what are you using for your day to day communication? Are you using your daily meetings? What is the duration of these daily meetings? Who are the people who are going to be coming into these meetings? And all of those things are extremely crucial and critical when it comes to putting across a communication which is clear and precise. Sorry, I lost you, Prem? I cannot see you.
I'm there, Shikha.
Yes, you're
I
there.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm there.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so coming to that, and that's where it is. So it's not just to say, it's important to know that it's important to know what your message is. It's important to have that clarity in your own mind. It's important to know who are the people you're communicating with. It's important to know what are the channels you're going to use to communicate with these people. It's also important to know what are you driving, and to have those kind of check-ins in place, and letting people know that they can come back to you and not belittling people. And I think that's very, very important. As a leader, if you belittle someone who comes to you for support, saying that you don't even know this, or you close that channel of communication, it's not going to serve you. You have to be an approachable leader. So these, I think, are crucial things in a nutshell that comes into having the precision in communication. And that takes me back to what you were saying regarding the mobile use, right? Communication is not about messaging. It's not like putting someone something out there. Communication involves a lot of other things, like active listening, like having the human element of connection to it. Without that, it doesn't really work.
You again, you brought an important point, bringing a human element.
Hmm.
Now, what is happening is we have become a global culture, right? Where
Yeah.
we are not having people sitting and doing a project only from Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai or something. Today, the diverse stakeholders, diverse teams, and
Hmm.
now when we spoke about the setbacks and the navigation,
Hmm.
how do we balance that empathy and precision in communication, especially dealing with diverse teams or stakeholders?
Hmm. So the interesting point why I'm taking a pause here is primarily because the way we see empathy, right? Empathy, when it's practiced in the way we, in our relationships and out of something which is driven by an agenda, it's very different versus when we practice it in a corporate setup, or in a place where we are driving something like an agenda or a goal. And that's why empathy with objectivity is very, very important. you know so empathy doesn't mean that of course you put yourself in someone else's shoes, but it doesn't mean that you just stay there. It means that you can bring in the objectivity to be able to enable that person to move past whatever roadblock that they are facing. What do they need? What is it? Is it coming from a cultural background that the communication is not clear? Is it coming from the skill set that it's not clear? Is it coming from a place of mindset that it is not clear, or it's not happening, or it's not going across? So some of the things that I really encourage people to do when it comes to this as leaders, when you're leading with empathy, is to actively listen to where is the problem coming from, where is the communication not moving through. Again, encouraging people to paraphrase what you've said, which means that asking them, so can you repeat what I said, or how do you understood it? Very important aspect of communication. Otherwise we will never know what someone's taken back home, right? And the third and important thing is to give constructive feedback. And constructive feedback only makes sense, and feedback is only looked at constructively is when you have the element of empathy built into it, and you also have the element of active listening built into it. If you're not listening to people, you're giving feedback left, right, and center, nobody is going to honor it beyond a point. You have to listen, understand the problem, and then give the feedback. And this is very important and crucial for when it comes to precision in communication, apart from the messaging and choosing the medium and all of those things.
Very, again, you brought in another point where I want to understand is
Yeah.
people always listen to respond, correct?
Mm. Yeah, always. Most
People
of the time.
most of the time, I want to see what that guy is asking, and
Mm,
I'll just respond. I'll just give him an answer. And
mm,
if don't have a clear communication and there has been differences, let that guy come. I will see
mm,
what he's asking. I will tell him back. Okay,
mm,
I'll be prepared. I'm not
mm,
referring to anybody, but that's the way communication is getting built over the period. I think uh, we are not looking at solving an objective. We are talking more, I proved a point,
mm,
right? I think that's the communication that is coming up. Now, looking at this point, what are three common communication uh, pitfalls professions should watch out, and at
mm.
what stages of their careers?
Okay, so I'm going to give you three actually. It's very interesting. I love this conversation, this particular point, because
Yeah.
it's so different based on the level in your career that you're in. So let's come at a fresher level. Okay, just started couple of maybe months, years into the job, over explaining. They over explain everything, long sentences, long description, taking everybody's time because they really want to prove that they are smart and they know it. But if you already know the thing, you don't have to explain it too much. That's also loss of communication because people lose you then. Okay, so that's for your early level. For your mid level, the communication pitfall primarily is that you don't understand where the person is coming from. You've gained a certain amount of experience. You're leading people who might not be as experienced. But again, you don't build in the factor of empathy and you just assume that they have understood and you just move forward. So that whole feedback mechanism is not there. So that's a pitfall when it comes to the mid level. For the leadership team, even in more interesting, is that it's very vague. The communication is very vague. We call it the leadership gyan, right? We always say leaders are giving gyan, and it's because it's all vague and there are no actionables attached to it. We are not talking about how, when, what at all.
Hmm.
So that's the pitfall when it comes to leadership. So three different stages, and these are the most common ones that I come across in my coaching that people face when it comes to communication.
And little away from the leadership, I
Mhm.
think this happens at our communication at home as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yes.
It's a different level that we get
Yeah.
into a discussion, because we sometime, I think, we take things for granted,
Mm.
saying that at home, I
Mm.
think we take saying that, okay, I whatever I say they understand.
Yeah. And we
I
assume that it's been so many years, by
Yeah,
now the person should know.
yeah.
But the person's only work is not to know you, right? The person has other work also. They have their own self to look at as well. So ego comes in between. It comes in corporate as well,
Hmm.
wherein we move from collab.
Ego is one thing I think is everywhere. At home, it becomes more emotional, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So you're emotionally also driven.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I communicate effectively, I think the best way is to let someone know what is
Hmm.
important to us and why is it important to us and where are we coming from. That intention needs to be spelled out, and we need to have patience to see a change, and that's extremely important.
I think one where I was reading somewhere is that over a period we take the people around us for granted. I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Mm,
So whether it is at office or at home, I think somewhere that clarity, as you were rightly saying, that we need to be clear, saying that what is expected and why is it expected, right? So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that pointer has to be very, very clear. And with that point, I want to understand, how do we look at freshers to mid-level managers aiming to
Mm,
move up the ladder, and
mm.
how can precision in communication become a game changer for them?
Yeah. I think very important for freshers, especially. Like I said, don't go into over explaining things. Focus more or
One
trying to
point,
improve. Yeah.
sorry, one
Yes.
point. I want to tell this point because you said over explaining. I missed this point. Sorry, I cut you there.
No, 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 no.
Uh,
Please go on. Mm,
so there was one. I was part of a large organization earlier, and I
mm.
had this issue. What you're saying, long sentence.
Yeah.
My mails all used to be a pager.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Okay, so I when you said this, I wanted to mention, but I missed it. So you brought it again, so I'm cutting you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
So,
no, not at all. This is what
so,
conversations are, right? It makes it more
so,
interesting when we
so
have our own
what
example.
what happened is he was from Bombay, and his
Hmm.
name was Pandey. He's my mentor, and
Hmm.
he's not there, so I miss him a
Oh,
lot. So
sorry.
uh, he used to say, "आप कहानी क्यों लिखते
Yeah.
हो? लिखो 2 लाइन लिखो, काफी है."
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
used to tell me whenever he used to see initial days of that mentoring from him was
Hmm.
he used to say कहानी मत लिखो, you
Hmm.
come to the point. आपको क्या चाहिए सर? Today we are planning a meeting at 10 o'clock. Is it okay for you?
Hmm.
Rather than writing, sir, how are you? This is what my name is. This for this project. Can we look at? Yeah, this is what I used to write.
Hmm.
Initial days of my project management career, about 10, 15 years back.
Hmm.
Then this guy comes up and says, he turned me around and saying that ask questions in a very bulleted point. You write,
Hmm.
today we are having a meeting. These are the 4 people coming from your side. This is the
Hmm.
time we are planning. What is the
Hmm.
time that you are okay? Is this slot okay for you? Otherwise, let us know what time you are available.
Works for you.
Good luck. I would look at your timings in 2 or 3 slots so that I can plan
Hmm.
them. That's all. The mail is to go.
Yeah. And save so much of time for you and the other
Saves
person
lot of
reading
time.
it.
Lot of
Right?
time.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
exactly. So coming back to what we were discussing, over explaining is a concern when it comes to freshers, and I've seen it so many times, and people. So there are two reasons why this doesn't work. One, it shows that your people lose the message in
Hmm.
all the explanation that you're going to be giving, right? So that's one thing. Second is also you waste a lot of time of anybody who's in front of you. So if you go in a presentation and you just keep explaining things that people already know, and just because you have got to know it recently, you feel like you have to show that you understand it, not required. Have the
Hmm.
pointers if somebody asks, and go ahead and speak. This and another important aspect when it comes to communication is that ability to clearly ask for support in an area that you need the support in. A lot of again comes from the same place. If I ask for support, I will look silly, I will look like I don't know. But to be clearly able to say that this is a skill set, or this is a thing I have never worked on before, can you give me the action labels for this, instead of saying that I failed, I don't know how to do, but just precisely this particular aspect, which is true for everyone. We all struggle in different aspects, and it's okay to seek support. So, two things for freshers: one, don't go into over explaining, whether it's your emails, like you said, or whether it's a presentation that you're making. And second thing, be very clear on the kind of support that you need so that you can move quicker. You can learn quick, move quick. Don't be vague, because otherwise you'll get all the support, which is not the support that you need, right? So that's important for freshers. When it comes to mid management, having clear, concise, and precise communication is very important, which means not having those time waste meetings, having the agenda of meetings very, very crisp and very clear, having the ability or building the ability to be able to talk to diverse teams who are probably sitting out of different countries or working from their homes. That ability of shortening things down, and most importantly, also the ability to tell them, where do you need the support? Come and ask me, and creating that safe space where they are not judged. And why is it important? Because it builds trust. And only when you are trusted at mid management level will you actually be able to move to a leadership level, because it's extremely important. Trust is seen as a big plus when it comes to the next move, apart from your skills, of course. So these
I
are, I think,
thank you for that. I would
yeah,
like to add one point which we discussed
sure.
in the start of the session,
Hmm.
that you close a gap of communication. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you are not listening, so
Mm.
that creates a barrier, right? So
Yeah.
people will not start talking to you because you are not listening, right?
Mm. Mm.
And most of the time it happens at many places, whether it is at projects, at a team meetings, on a discussion with a friend. It so happens that we shut off saying that he is not understanding, right?
Mm.
And that conversation ends there, and we don't discuss further because I don't want to talk anything, because he does not understand what I'm trying to say, or does not have a patience to look at.
Mm.
In those moments of disruption and or crisis, how can
Mm.
precision in communication act as the stabilizing force for uh, people across industries, whether it can be
Hmm.
projects or at home or at a friend's any relationship, in terms of how do you make that kind of a thing?
See, a very important aspect of communication, Prem, which is often not talked about, is the timing of the communication as well.
Hmm.
Not so you start a communication, you understand that maybe another person is getting triggered about
Hmm.
something, okay, or you are getting triggered about something. That moment is not the moment of communication. That's a heated moment. Now, if someone is very mindful, they will be able to kind of, and that's why mindfulness is such a big tool when it comes to precision. They are able to pull themselves back and look at things objectively. But if somebody is not, and you're not going to find everyone who's mindful, you're going to find people who get triggered very easily. In that moment, you need to know when to pause the communication also. Because if you go on speaking and speaking, you're just layering things up one on top of the other, as not going in the right direction, as notions, as and that can become a setback. So wise thing to do in such times is also to say that, I think it's not going in the right direction now, maybe we can come back later, and I'll leave you with some points to maybe you can think about it when it's a better time for you, and let's come back on it. And that's a beautiful thing to do, because a lot of people don't do that. They want to address it right there right now, but that's not the time. So you're wasting your time, you're wasting someone else's time. And I encourage people to break away and say that, let's take time out and come back and do this again. And I think it's very, very crucial to do. Another thing is to pause in that moment and say, for example, if you're saying something to me and that's not, I believe that you're not understanding me, then I will step into your shoes with empathy and ask you, Supreme, from where I see it, is this what you're trying to tell me? Or is this what your thought process is? Suddenly, I'm paraphrasing everything that you've said, and you will go and delve a little more deeper and tell me a little bit more about what you're actually thinking. So then I can say, okay, so does it mean that you're coming from this place? And then you would be like, so for example, we had the conversation on the email.
Hmm.
Okay, the email long thing. So you say, so then I will say, so is Prem, is that coming, you're coming from the place that you actually made that difference, and that difference kind of reflected in how your email communication has improved? So you will say, yes, today what I do is this. You're giving me more information to work with. And that's where mindfulness come in the picture, that you become cued onto that person, that you're seeing things from the other side of the table, and you're reaching a place where there is collaboration instead of one up.
Hmm.
And with collaboration, you move towards your goal. Because if you're going to do one up, it's only sustainable for X amount of times. It wouldn't take you further. At the end of the day, we need collaboration. So stepping back, if that is required, and stepping in with empathy and objectivity, but you still have your goal and your agenda clear in your mind. I think that's very important.
I'll take another point where I'm relating to all my project management experiences, right? So
Best it is. The related ones are the best examples.
uh, there was an escalation for one of the large software development company, and
Hmm.
we went in, and it was in the midnight around 1 o'clock, and the craziest part was the OEM guy was also reporting to me
Hmm.
early.
Hmm.
The guy who's doing job is reporting to me in the current
Hmm.
organization, and
Hmm.
they have a difference in opinion.
Hmm.
Then this guy calls me and says, "You people always do like this." The
Hmm.
OEM guy says. Our guy says, "I know that guy, sir. He was with us only." I said,
Hmm.
"Yes, it is." So the argument went into a stage, it was about half an hour to 45 minutes that we've been discussing, but we are not solving the problem. We are in escalation. We
Hmm.
are not looking at what is the problem, but we are trying to see where is the point that comes up and who's made a mistake. Now I have to
Hmm.
take this point up.
Yeah.
So I listened for, it was about 1:32 in the night. And
Wow.
I quiet, and I heard quietly, and then I said, "Boss, let's do postmortem after we solve the problem."
Hmm.
Is that okay? And I told both, you know that guy, so you're not
Hmm.
able to convince that guy. Okay.
Hmm.
The OEM guy said, "Boss, I know how you work. Now you are other side of the organization, so don't tell this organization is bad or that organization you did like this. Those are
Hmm.
all post-mortem questions. This
Hmm.
half an hour is gone on discussion which did not help the customer. Can you look at
Hmm.
that? We
Hmm.
can do post-mortem later."
Hmm. And that worked. Yeah.
That worked. That
Yeah,
worked.
so that's the same stepping out, right? That you
Yeah.
move out of those triggers. There's another thing that I often, when I work with people, especially leaders who have this problem, that people like different team members, like marketing and HR or marketing and sales, they come and with different point of views and blaming it on each other. There's one thing that I really practice with them, and everybody who's listening, this could be really helpful, is to tell people, come to me with problems. I don't mind it, but also come to me with potential solution, at least three. Okay. So the moment you give them that you can only come to me with the problem with three potential solution from your side, things that are in your control, it kind of changes the way they start looking at things. Because now they are not just thinking about the problem, they're thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And they'll come up with three things. And the way then when they enter your cabin, they're already coming from, how can I convince my leader on one of this? So they have shifted out of problem to a solution mindset. And that really works wonders for most of the leaders that I work with. Yeah.
Now, again, a new way of looking has come up, which is creating a lot of confusion. A lot of things that is there is effective
I used,
communication evolving with the rise of AI.
I knew you were going to use the AI word. All the buildup was around that.
And again, see, again, one is AI.
Hmm.
Now with the COVID, what we did change the dynamics of the workplace itself,
Yeah.
and then we start looking at remote work.
Hmm.
With all this, what is happening is when remote work is happening, you call me, I am in a call. When I call
Hmm.
you, you are in another call.
Hmm.
We don't find each other getting it. By the time the day ends, we still have something to work.
Yeah.
So, how do we look at these points and how effective communication can evolve having
Hmm.
these pointers in mind?
Hmm. So AI, let's talk about AI.
Mhm.
Hottest topic that's been
Yeah,
going on for a while now.
yeah.
Uh, so AI is great. I think it's a great tool for data. It's a great tool for getting a lot of insights and things like that. Works really well if you know how to use it. But it's not human.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're dealing with humans, so we need to humanize communication, which means that use your AI tools and AI powered tools to make summaries, to jot down points, to keep a track and all of that, but don't do it to use it to do the human stuff, which is your connection, which is you're not going to nobody's going to get motivated looking at an AI generated message.
Mm.
Everybody's going to get motivated when they feel your passion and conviction about what you're driving. And I would rest it at that. AI cannot take the human experience. It cannot give you
I'll,
the human
I'll
experience.
add because you said that. I was in a
Yeah.
conference with Microsoft
Mm,
on the Copilot stuff.
mm,
So they made a very important point. Why they made the name Copilot means is we only work with you as a pilot. You are the main
yeah.
pilot.
Yeah.
It's not that AI is doing. I was very much happy when they said Copilot. It
Mm,
they said I can give all the insights that you are looking for in a summarized gist kind of a piece,
mm,
and then decision I leave it to you because you are the pilot.
yeah. And also so much of data, right?
Yeah,
AI not going to know what you need the data for. How can you make the data more relevant is dependent on you. How can you make it more relevant for your stakeholders is dependent on you. It cannot do the human stuff. So use it wisely so that you don't have to do the machine stuff, so that you can do your human stuff better, which is connection, which is communication, which is customization right there when you're looking in someone's eye, or having a conversation with them. AI cannot do that, so use that. So that's AI from my side, keeping it very crisp. And when it comes to hybrid, okay, that's very interesting because yeah, like you said, we miss out on people. So it's always great to kind of book meetings and things like that. But there's another thing that I really encourage people to do. And I work with a lot of companies, even overseas in France and Belgium and in Amsterdam. And I always kind of tell them to have these coffee catch ups.
hmm.
Okay. Book coffee catch ups. Have a face to the name that you write an email to every now and then. Tell them, why do you do what you do? What do you think of your role? How do you envision? And have coffee catch up with one level up as well. So skip level coffee catch ups, great, so that
Yeah,
people know, what are you, who are you, what are you driving, what are your aspirations. And it's like, tomorrow, you and I have never met. Of course, we've never, before getting together for the podcast, have a conversation. But tomorrow, if I have to message you asking you that, maybe let's do another podcast, or you reach out to me, what are the chances of you replying to me as compared to a cold call or someone I don't know? Much higher, right? It's
Much
just
higher.
the way it's just the way it works. So give that face, get that communication, that connection. It's very, very important, and that's where hybrid works. We need to have that kind of communication and that those kind of collaborations where you know people for who we are, which is what we do in office. We go for coffee, we meet for
Yeah.
lunch. Try to do that. Have coffee catch ups. They work really well.
Oh, you gave me good insights on remote work. That remote and hybrid work. I we being at office creates a different culture of understanding itself. I
Mm,
understand better from both sides of life. It is on a personal front. I come to know what challenges you are going through and
mm,
see if I can help you. That is one
mm,
thing. Second thing is when we discuss face to face, we understand where are the cues coming in from each other
mm,
person. And with that cues, we may understand saying that this is what he was trying to tell, but we over a call, we overlooked at it or we
yeah,
mistook it. So I
yeah.
think being at front, as you rightly said, putting a name to a face and discussion face to face
Mm,
changes a lot of things.
yeah.
In that sense, what shift should the CEOs or the business owners be aware when
Mm.
fostering a culture of clarity and understanding in their organizations?
Well, I'll give you three important things that I always feel that CEOs or leaders should really focus on. One is when it comes to precision in communication, primarily. One is transparency, having the goals,
Hmm.
also the challenges, and also the fact where it's a decision versus where you're open to receiving more feedback, where you're open to receiving more inputs and
Hmm.
feedback. I think these are key things that we look at in transparency. And the reason why there's also challenges is because a lot of times, as leaders, we don't inform our teams about the challenges, thinking that they are our own and we need to take them up and just drive the team. Doesn't work that way. If your team knows what you're facing and exactly what is your problem, they're more likely to collaborate with you to move forward. So that's transparency is extremely important. Another is embracing new technology. I think that's extremely important. Again, using AI to get your summaries and do follow-ups and things like that, and those triggers and things like that. Also using the right kind of tech. So Teams, how to use Teams, what is Teams for, what are emails for, what are project stacks for. So all of those things, embracing that just simplifies your life so you can focus on driving people. Like you're there, in contact with people and able to use the right medium for the right kind of communication. And the third very important thing in today's time is inclusive communication. Not everybody is from the same you know same place, same country. So if you're who using doing town halls, see that the communication is available in different languages, that there is accessibility of the people to kind of be able to hear it in their language, because we don't understand, but language is a big barrier in communication. For a lot of people, English is not the first language that
Yeah.
they speak in. So have that. So that inclusivity and that vision that I have to include everyone is very, very important when it comes to modern day, when you call precision in communication for leaders.
I think one way I look at is we should look at out of the box problem solving. I
Hmm.
think that
Yeah.
that is one precision of where precision of communication led to innovation. I will
Hmm.
take that pointer and tell you one thing is what I understood is as we spoke about this earlier, we have people from diverse cultures, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I had a problem where I was speaking to a person, that person was never able to understand,
Hmm.
and we could not give him the things that we were looking at. How do I look at out of the box and help that guy to solve this problem? But that I knew that this guy can do it.
Hmm.
But what happened is, as you rightly said just now, not everybody knows English, and we were
Hmm.
talking English. I asked him, "Where are you from?" He said, "I am from Tamil Nadu." I
Hmm.
said, I can speak Tamil. So I turned the conversation into Tamil and I
Hmm.
started talking him. How is
Hmm.
that?
Hmm.
I spoke in the language, and that guy was first was he was clear saying that now I am able to voice out my thoughts in the language that I can understand. That was the
Yeah.
first thing that he felt. This I'm talking about 6 7 years back, and
Hmm.
that's when that whole thing started turning, and we sat in the together and started to work on it. And suddenly you see that guy is able to do when you communicate in a different language.
Hmm.
That guy was able to show results out of the box and say this is how it is, and we,
Yeah.
we were able to solve it in about half an hour's time,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
was landing for standing with us for about a week or so. We could not do that because
Hmm.
I was thinking this guy is understanding. He used to say yes, yes, okay, okay, and he used to go.
Yeah. No, true. And I work with a French company very closely, and they have their, they've outsourced a lot of work to Bangalore. And one of the key challenges that they face, very the English, of course, Bangalore people can speak English, and it's a company organization. We all can, most of us can speak English, but the accent,
Hmm.
they don't understand. The Indians don't understand the French accent so much. The French don't understand the Indian accent so much, and there's a gap. So I had to take this workshop on how to speak slow and speak mindfully and use non-complicated words and get to know each other. And it really helped. So that's what I'm saying. The solution is not very complex. We try to make it very complicated. But when we do these simple things, they can be, exponentially beneficial in the overall vision that we have. So yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. And I get what you're saying. It makes a world of a difference.
I used to tell my team also saying that technology and understanding is simple. Don't put
Too much of
complexity
it.
into it.
Yeah.
So I tell the team is now I want internet. I have a modem that is done, so internet is there. But
Mm.
when you come to organizations, you will put a firewall. Then you will say
Yeah.
you will put something else. You will say endpoint protection. Then you will say there is some other protection that we need to malware,
Mm.
ransomware. Now
Mm.
you are having 100 layers. Then you want the internet to be speed. How will it be?
Mm.
It does
Yeah.
not happen like that. You have multiple hops. Just to give an example, it may not relate to the right way of saying that it will be slow and stuff like that. But
Mm.
what I'm trying to put across is you are introducing elements of block or channels where you are making it complex, whereas it
Yeah.
can be looked at solutions as simple as it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to leaders on creating workplace environment where employees are felt heard? First is
Mhm.
most of the time people don't feel that they are heard about,
Yeah.
and yet objectives remain clear.
Hmm. So I'm so what I always tell people is and leaders is to be human centric leaders, right? And I think we had that conversation as well. So, so important to be human centric leaders. Yes, you have goals. Yes, you have numbers that you have to achieve. But at the end of the day, who's driving those numbers? If your
Mm,
people aren't in sync, then no numbers are ever going to happen. They might happen one quarter, but they'll not consistently happen. So one important thing is active listening. Very, very important. And this is irrespective of the model that you're following in your organization. Hybrid, across cultures, whatever it is, actively listening to what's happening is very important, which means that without judgment. Just because you didn't face this problem as a leader and somebody is facing it doesn't mean that the problem is little or not important. So that's an important aspect of active listening, not listening to respond, but just listening to understand what is happening in the organization. Second thing is feedback. And active listening and feedback is related. If you don't listen to your people and you just give feedback, then it becomes criticism very quickly.
mm,
Okay. When you listen to people actively and you give them a feedback that is growth oriented, everything shifts, because then your people will seek that feedback because they know that you're also listening to their problems and you're with them in this and you want the growth, right? So that's extremely important. Another is to create a supportive and a high performing culture with your precision in communication. One example that I want to give here is Apple, right? So Steve Jobs was very clear. He said, put everything in one device, which is your phone, your music, and your internet. And hence iPhone was created. And so simple. There was no mistake in anything. Don't make anything fancy. Keep it simple. Put these things into a device, and that is the biggest technological advancement that we've seen. I mean, it's taken the world by storm, and that's the importance of having that clarity and that supportive environment, which kind of fosters that, right? So that's another important thing. And I think these are three things that I really encourage leaders to really focus on when it comes to precision in communication. Of course, then there are mediums and how to use them effectively, but these three are foundational. If it's not there, then you will lose your sense of communication at some point of time.
Are there any tools, frameworks, or methods that would help
Mhm.
the teams to communicate with precision?
So a lot of them actually. So one which is what we call as the SMART goals, right? So
Hmm.
we have goals that are measurable. We have goals that are achievable. We have goals that that you can really relate to. We have goals that are trackable. So these are simple things. So have when you define your goals, define them in a way that every single aspect of the goal can be monitored. Who is going to be doing it? Can we how is these goals achievable? Do they have a sense of inspiration to the goals? And this is key and important. Then using your technology, like your Teams, effectively. What do I need to use Teams for? What do I need to use emails for? What do I need to use verbal communication for? So these are important things. One more very important aspect that I always encourage people when they're especially leading a project, and you're moving through something which is very time bound and crucial, is to have what I call as stand up meetings.
Hmm.
These are done every day, and they are very short meetings, like 15, 30 minutes, max to max, where everybody is just standing and there's a quick thing that you just take up a feedback. What's happening, what's going on, any problem, anything's happening, and that. So that's very, very clear. And have the mechanism for regular check ins. You can't give people work and not check in on them and assume that after a week they're going to come back saying everything is great. It's not going to happen. You will find surprises that you don't want to find. So regular check-ins is extremely, extremely important. And I think these are so a mix of, again, technology and the human element important in this.
How can we look at a culture or a feedback for
Hmm.
continuous improvement in communication within an organization?
Hmm. So what happens most of the times, we wait for our annual reviews, right? Where we fill in those KRA sheets very nicely, and then we'll wait. And we'll assume that our leader knows everything that we are doing. And the leader also assumes that everything is done until
Hmm.
they sit back and we see, oh no, this person's not done this. And that check-in from the leader's point of view is also dependent on what kind of communication have you had with the leader over the months. If you've never gone to the leader, you've just worked in the background, he has no idea on what are you moving through, what are your challenges, the leader has not gone ahead and asked. So again, that communication is very important. We have to really stop making feedback an annual event. This KRA cannot be, it's of course it's done for HR and all that. We have to stop making it like an annual event. We need to have built-in feedback mechanisms wherein one, as someone who's a fresher or a mid-level, go and ask your leader, this has been the month. What do you think can be done better? Or this is what I have done. I think this came out great. What are your thoughts? Ask your leader that. I mean, the leader will be very happy to have these conversations. Plus, as a leader, go around, speak in, check in with people. How are things going? I think this could be done better. I think you did really well last month, but what's happening? Are you off? Is there something not right? Are you moving through something? Have those things so that nobody gets a surprise at the end of the year in the KRA and then say, oh, I'm not getting anything because you didn't care enough to make it more frequent, right? So
Yeah.
this is extremely important, I feel.
I'll move on to some of the questions that have come from the audience.
Yes,
I'll bring
please.
them. Yeah.
Hmm.
One question is excellent point made by Maneshwar Nath Tiwari.
Hmm.
Point made by Shikha. My two cents. Mostly, we swipe culture has made most quick. What's in for me? Decision is made fast. Precisions are formed faster, and perceptions, I think, these are for.
Hmm.
Then quick comments serving our needs. So that's one
Yeah.
question.
Hmm.
Then we have Abdul saying, how can I check whether my message has been understood correctly?
Okay. Like I said, Abdul, paraphrasing is a beautiful way of doing that. So once you have communicated and you think you have communicated to the best of your ability with clarity, with precision, with the right channel of communication, ask the other person as to how have they perceived it. In that itself, you will know whether they've got every point or not. And once you've done that, it's always nice to kind of just write a very short email with the main pointers so that you both are on the same page. So have it documented somewhere if it's a very important kind of communication. If it's a general sense of a mindset shift or something, you can always, paraphrase. But paraphrasing is great. Ask people how have they understood your message.
And next, I have a message from Lokesh who says listening is very important before communicating.
Absolutely.
So Wasim says it's right. So that's where I
I'm
have
glad.
Archana.
Hmm.
For mid managers, clearly defining objective for subordinate is the key. So Archana
Absolutely.
says that. Then I have Sheetal saying effective and mindful communication is a key aspect and a stepping stone to communication, stone to any
Absolutely.
communication. Yeah.
Yes.
Then I think we have Ratna saying, leaders should listen to their subordinate alternatively and respectfully, which makes a lot of difference. Boosting teams confident. Boosting,
Yeah,
okay.
I agree. Respect for being respectful is important in any communication. Whether
Yes.
you have disagreement or agreement, respect is non-negotiable.
100%. I think I was discussing somewhere where
Hmm.
uh, you respect and give an feedback that will help. But if you disrespect that guy will never come back to you.
Yeah. And and just because someone has another point of view, which is often colored by their own experiences or what they've faced in life, doesn't make right or wrong. It's just a thing that's established over a period of time. So you can fully disagree, but you don't have to be disrespectful. It doesn't make anyone a fool.
Great. I have another pointer
Hmm.
where she says effective communication today is very important both in business and private life.
Hmm.
I have Lokesh again saying something on over the year. Most of us are working from home. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's why
Then
we talked about it because we know that that's a big thing in today's world.
Hassan says hello. And
Hello, Hassan.
how can I create an open feedback with continuous improvement? That is what Abdul is saying again.
Hmm. So, Abdul, so I think an important aspect of open feedback is to seek feedback actively. To really seek feedback. And once you seek the feedback, make note of, I'm not saying everything, but maybe one thing that you think that you can work on and start working on that and see how it is reflecting. And then the person who's given you the feedback, tell them that, your feedback really helped me. And this is what I've done. And I think I've improved in this area, though all of us are still work in progress. So let them know that their feedback helped. So the next time they are going to be more open to give you honest feedback. And I think that's very, very crucial and important. So yeah, I think have that. You have to lead it. Don't expect someone to lead your feedback. That is not going to happen. If you want to growth, you have to ask for feedback and ask and don't get hurt about when someone says something. Also, you don't have to take every feedback. You will also know in your mind this is the
Yes.
right feedback. Take that, work on it, take one point, work on it, and then once you build it, tell the other person, thank you, this helped, and then go on seeking for the next feedback. So
Vinay has another poor communication with proper
coming,
communication with transparency is most important. So,
absolutely, I
yeah,
agree to that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And coming to the last pointer that I wanted to look at, and I'll
Hmm.
summarize on based on what is the powerful message you would like to give to every listener as a
Hmm.
takeaway with importance on clear and precise communication.
So I think one thing that I always say is clarity from the mind. So clarity of thought, your thoughtfulness of your speech, and the consistency of your action. These are three things that are important in every aspect of our life. And this is what brings people together, and this is what makes progress happen. And that's really it. So clarity of thought, thoughtfulness of speech, and consistency of action. If there's something that you can manifest, I would encourage everyone to ask this for yourself. And I do that myself. It's something that I say to myself every day in the morning that I hope I have this. And I hope I'm able to lead into everything in my life with this. And I want to leave you with this thought.
Wonderful. Great insights there, Shika. I
What a
would like,
pleasure.
yeah, I would like to summarize on what we had a deep dive today. We
Mhm.
started with the foundation questions on what is precision communication and stuff there. Then we started with the personal experience, a deep dive we did, some insights, what we took about, industry trends and fresh look, strategy, thinking out of box, emerging at the human side, practical applications. We discussed something about some of the
Yeah.
case studies and some pointers where we spoke about engaging people, how the freshers and leaders can look at what is that they are looking at, how leaders can look at from fresh to mid-level managers and stuff. That is where we spoke about. On the closing point, some powerful messages that we wanted to look at, saying that be having clarity in what you are and what can be expecting as a feedback. Take, you should not take all feedback is what you said, or
Mhm.
informed, and it depends on what is making sense for you and what does not make sense. And I think you clearly know what exactly happens when you get a feedback. Half
Yeah.
of the thing is known to you before you get a feedback itself, is what
And
my
again,
point.
the clarity of your thought helps in that also. If you're clear and you're aware of your own self,
Hmm.
it just makes sense. So before we go out in the world doing anything, that mindfully being aware of oneself is crucial for everything in life.
With this, we are good. We are done for the session. We had an amazing session, a lot of
Yes.
insights.
Hmm.
I think what I would like to tell to the audience is that we have streamed this from LinkedIn to YouTube, Twitter, Insta.
Hmm.
And this we have posted it to our channel on YouTube, which you can look at a later stage. I think we hope that you have found this discussion valuable. Thank you for
Hmm.
joining us today on LinkedIn Live. Our next podcast would be on the 3rd of December, which is 178th episode at 6:30 p.m. Looking forward to see you again. Good day, bye for now. Shika, any pointers that you want to look at the last moment or the last point that you have
Thank you
in
so
mind?
much. I think everybody who has joined in, thank you so much, Prem, for leading it so beautifully and asking such interesting questions. I'm always excited to talk about these things, and it brings me immense joy. So, thank you so much. I'm grateful for your presence. And please look at the podcast later and get some pointers. I hope it helps you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shika. Good day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good day to you too.